Welcome. Good morning. Hello, Jeff.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Excited to share today. This will be fun.
Yeah, this should be a good one.
So, welcome, everybody. We're going to get everybody situated and set up. Happy Friday. Happy Pi Day.
Happy Pi Day. Very exciting.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. So, welcome to the pre show Tech Talk with our tech guru, Jeff.
Oh, my goodness.
It's true.
Well, I do love it. I've got the passion.
Oh, it's great. We should do one of these and share our favorite AI prompts. Would be fun.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a skill set in its own right, for sure.
exactly. We've come a long way from the call center days of phone only.
It's pretty hard to imagine. Yeah, pushing chat was considered a a bold step, and now look at us.
Right. It's still a bold step for some.
True.
Right.
True.
I was on a call with a new client the other day, and it was just in the very beginning, and they were saying, well, no one does phone anymore, right? For customer service. I just thought that was hilarious. I thought, okay, sure. Right. Like who in many cases, people do want to connect with humans, but in many cases, they're happy to just get their answers solved through other means, automation, chat.
Yeah, it's really the use case. I think that's an important thing. There's sometimes I do want to pick up the phone, and sometimes I just want to be like, okay, this is this is silly. I need this one bit of answer. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. We're just down to maybe 5 minutes, and we're going to jump into our webinar this morning. So welcome.
Okay.
If you have joined early, welcome. And if you have questions that you'd like us to address as we go, you're welcome to submit them in the chat. And we will, as we go through today and this morning, we'll try to work those in and involve you in the conversation.
Absolutely. And if something comes up after the fact, reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer that offline as well. How's your weather today there, Sally? It's like really sunny here today. It's quite nice. It's that taste of spring.
Lovely. Yeah, it's a little cloudy here where our headquarters is outside of Washington, D.C. So it looks a little dreary, but spring is soon. It's coming.
Yes. I can't wait.
And so is St. Patrick's Day. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a few more minutes. I'm Sally Hurley, and I'm joined here with Jeff Cramp. And we'd be happy to answer questions if you've jumped on early, if you submit them in the chat, we'll work them in as we go through today's presentation, and really would rather have a conversation. So we're excited to have you join us.
Absolutely.
Welcome, everyone. If you've joined early, grab some coffee or tea, water. We're going to get started here in like 4 minutes. And I'm Sally Hurley, CEO at VIP Desk, joined with our tech guru, Jeff Cramp.
Good morning.
If you've joined and you're wondering what are we going to dig into, we're going to be talking about all the roles you need to support AI for your CX initiatives, sharing our experience over the last 6 months. It's funny, we can't say over the last 20 years. No, this is all so new.
It's going so fast.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started. I keep saying that, but welcome if you've just joined. I'm going to give everybody the heads up that we're just waiting till the clock strikes 11 and we'll jump into it. I'm Sally Hurley, CEO of VIP Desk, joined by Jeff Cramp, our Chief AI Officer. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting.
It's our favorite thing to do. Let's just do this all day long.
I love it. Talking tech and talking solutions. I would do that all day and night.
That and quality. We seem to spend hours discussing what is quality.
It's a complex topic. It's a very, very opinionated topic.
Yes. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute.
Just a reminder for anyone who's just joined us, we will be doing a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to post any questions in chat or reach out to us offline after the conversation's done.
Okay, we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. All right, well, welcome everybody. Just about to kick this off. Thank you for your joining today. We're just about to get started. All righty, we're going to jump into today's live webinar on specialty roles you'll need for your AI solutions and implementations as you look at those for your customer service and CX operations. So I'm Sally Hurley, CEO here at VIP Desk, joined with our Chief AI Officer, Jeff Cramp. Welcome, Jeff.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. This is going to be fun. Jeff and I have worked together very, very long, many years here at VIP Desk. We're leaders, and we've been directly involved in these implementations with our clients. So today we're going to share our direct experience, what that looks like. As background, we provide outsourced customer service solutions. Today we provide AI guidance and solutions and specialty roles if you need it to support those implementations. Then, of course, always amazing people. We came from the BPO world. We came from an elevated service background. So I think we have a unique perspective in terms of how this gets implemented, how the customer journey is mapped, what the customer experience ultimately looks like. So welcome, everybody. We're thrilled to have you. This is a discussion, so if you have questions as we go, please add them to the chat room, and we'll try to work them into the conversation. And let's jump into it. So our agenda is we're going to talk about we're going to start out not negative, but what it cannot do. It cannot run itself. We're going to talk about specific roles that we've seen are needed for the implementation and ongoing management of AI, generative AI for customer service. We're just going to do a deep dive on each role. We're going to talk about scaling, and we're going to talk about escalation strategy, and then we'll wrap it up with where do you start with all of this? So out of the gate, let's talk about the roles. So we're going to discuss AI implementation, like the AI implementation manager. That's a critical role. The vendor relationship manager. If you are working with an outsourcer, you're working directly with an AI technology company, obviously somebody's going to manage that relationship. The conversational designer, integration specialist, knowledge base and content manager, performance and QA, and escalation team. So we want to start with why AI cannot run itself. So maybe this seems obvious, but before you implement it, somebody has to have the vision of what you want it to do. So what's the vision? Do you want it to automate interactions, resolve interactions, gather information for your customer service team to elevate the experience or address compliance issues? Is the goal to save money? There are a lot of components to this, and it's really at the beginning, someone needs to own the vision, and the whole team needs to be in sync with that. Then right behind that, and maybe before that, if you don't have content, meaning if you don't have information for the bot to absorb, to learn from, then you're going to be facing an uphill battle. So that you need human beings that have curated that content, which may seem obvious. In terms of integration, last time I checked, the AI bots cannot go integrate themselves into Shopify or other apps, so you need people to do that. Exception handling, meaning escalations. At some point, in most organizations need humans to step in, whether it's with an upset customer to lend that extra ear and empathy, or something very complex, or something that is maybe medical related. So there are different scenarios where, in almost every scenario, where you need people to handle those. Obviously, ongoing improvements, and this, Jeff will talk about this a lot, but in the few 6 months we've been doing this, lots of changes happening. And so, you need somebody that's on top of that. Compliance, maybe making sure that, that the bot is has its guardrails. Some human needs to make sure that that's happening. And then, of course, what I already just shared, which is at some point it hands off to humans. You need humans to be human and extend their empathy and compassion to other humans. So, but we're here to talk about the implementation and the actual roles. If you're implementing AI for your customer service operation, let's just assume it's a generative chatbot, and you need, what are the roles you're going to need to support that? So with that, without further ado, I will hand it over to you, Jeff.
Well, thank you. So our first role is really a pivotal one, especially once you're sort of rolling this out. And this is your AI implementation manager, or your ringmaster. This is someone who basically understands what the goals are of the organization and making sure that you meet those goals and you meet your timelines for deploying this out. And so this is no different than any other project manager. They do need to have that strong skill set. It does help if they have technical expertise, because you are ring mastering the platform and your technology team, as well as operations. In our case, also our clients. So this is someone who can bring it all together and make sure that the sort of everybody's aligned, everybody's on track, and you meet those goals. And so they have strong organizational skills, strong leadership skills, and again, making sure that you hit that goal, that ROI, or whatever your organizational goals are. This person can move on post implementation and just sort of coordinate the whole project as a whole, again, depending on your size. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. But this is really someone that is going to be a pivotal role to ensure that you are successful with rolling that out.
Can I just say, this is such a critical role? I mean, everybody's going to say, yes, of course. But I think because it's so new and there's so many probably voices in an organization that will care about it, the implementation manager, I would like to say, is probably key in keeping the entire project on track and not letting one group or one team steer away from that vision we talked about, because that becomes really tricky. So they are a bit of we had our own Val Burns for many years, and she kept all our implementations on track when things were new. And that was critical. Anyway, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, it's so, I think the point of so many voices, especially when you have new things, you're reading articles, people are going to have thoughts of what things can do or not do. And I think staying on point with those goals, and those goals can move over time, but I think sort of someone to bring it all together is key. All right. So next up, of course, somebody to manage your vendors. So in most organizations, historically, people might develop their own products like this in-house, but everything is moving so fast, and so to really sort of take advantage of a lot of the generative tools that are out there, you really do need a vendor. And this can be just a platform that you're going to run like you maybe do with your CRM, or it's a vendor that's going to manage your whole AI implementation for you. You need someone to manage that relationship. And that person really is someone that has, of course, good negotiating skills and good relationship and communication skills, but also someone who understands the goals. Again, and you're going to hear this a lot. We've talked about this before. Making sure that those goals are doable with that particular vendor, and that you're sort of staying abreast of all the developments that are happening. And maybe there's some new features that are coming out, or new like technology. There's like reasoning models now. Are those something that you need in your organization? And can your vendor do that? And so that is pretty important, to have someone manage that relationship and making sure that your platform, that your your uptime and various elements that you have within this is a technology tool that they're being met. And I think this is no different than any of your other relationships that you might have with, say, a CRM or your phone switch, or with a BPO. And again, depending on who's running your solution. But this is a good one to have. And again, may exist in your organization, and this just becomes another platform for them to manage.
And I think you said it, Jeff, but being aligned on the vision, think maybe everybody going into this needs the vision tattooed on their arm or something. Keep them all on track with the whole point, because it's just so customizable that I do think if you're managing the vendor, you and the implementation project manager need to be in sync as well. So you're getting the right vendor, and then you have the right vision being organized to implement.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see this especially now with a lot of the AI that's coming out there, because it's accessible for everyone. Like historically, not everyone, like you didn't call up your parents and they're running their own switch, but they may be using ChatGPT now, and the news headlines are constantly talking about what's new and exciting. So you do have that sort of shiny, as we say in our family, squirrel, exciting thing that's happening out there, and so making sure that, like, just because it's shiny and new, is it right for you and your organization? And is your vendor ready for it? And sometimes the newest things you don't want to sort of deploy into the front lines of everything, but it should be a roadmap to get there if that's something that you think will help you. And so I think always being aware of what's out there, being aware of your vendor's capabilities, and having that conversation. Speaking of conversation, good segue there. Conversation designer. And so this is probably one of the more technical roles, but someone who's really service first, because this is a person that's going to sort of map out how a conversation is handled. And this is historically what you've used for chat bots traditionally. But this is a slightly different role, because you're handing off back and forth between some of these language models and these generative AI. And that handoff has to still feel natural. Like in theory, you could just put a language model in front of everything and have a full-on conversational bot, but that's not always the most efficient route to go, especially for things like order status lookups, or if you have a tight integration with a homegrown tool or something like that. You have to sort of decide, okay, when do we want to take advantage of a language model? When does it more traditional flow make sense? How do we hand off to the escalation team? Having someone understand that flow, and really understanding the service and the voice of the voice of your organization that you want to have with your customers is really key. This is going to lead to your success. It's much easier now in the sense that you have sort of more options with language models, because they can do much more and be that much more natural. But really, it's that sort of weaving in and out of language models, I think, that makes the conversation really work, and really take advantage of all the tools that you might have access to. So someone in this world does have to be a bit more technical. So they should know chat platforms, or even your phone switch and how that's operating. And they should have a basic understanding of like natural language processing or natural language understanding, and most importantly, with large language models. And so that's what a lot of these generative tools are using. And so you don't have to develop one from scratch. That would be a huge undertaking. But knowledge of them, how to make sure your prompts are there. And again, this is where your vendor, your platform, or your partner is going to work with you, and making sure that it has the right voice and all of that. So they don't need to have a PhD in language models, but it does help if they have some understanding. And then, of course, just general communication skills. Although they will work with the knowledge management and the communications person, it helps if they have some experience and are well spoken, because that will translate to those conversations.
And Jeff, would you say this replaces I will call it workflow designer? You think about a call center, there's always been someone or a team that's responsible for mapping out the workflow and work streams.
Yeah, I think this is sort of the new sort of replacement version of that. And I like the sort of phrased as a conversation designer versus a workflow. There is a lot of structure in this. There's sort of like hard coded workflows, but the mindset of a person has to be a bit more open minded, and a bit more understanding of some of these capabilities, because you want to take advantage of them. The worst thing you could do is have a tool or a platform where you're not really taking advantage of some of the generative stuff that's out there. And so where is it appropriate? Where is it not? I feel like this person is sort of the next level of that. It's like the evolution of that role. All right. So next up, we've got our integration specialist. So this is probably the most technical role. You may have this person in your organization. It may be your technology or development team, but this is someone that's going to play a pivotal role in the beginning of your organization, your implementation. And if you ever change platforms in the future or add more tools, this is someone that can take your bot, take your language model, take your tools, and integrate them with various platforms. And so this is going to be your CRM, of course. That's a given, right? If you want to have those interactions documented and loaded in somewhere where you're already doing your data collection, then that might make sense. If you're using Shopify, or maybe you've got a homegrown tool that handles like customer profile information. This is the person that's going to integrate those two platforms together. And so that is really key when you're looking at things like automation and resolution rates, because if your tool cannot look up the status of an order, for example, how will you ever resolve that? And so that is something that is quite pivotal when you are mapping out your journeys and understanding what is your contact drivers. Any of those tools are a huge resource for cost savings, for ease of use for the customer, to get them those resolution rates. And so this is really quite critical. And this person should be involved in your future roadmaps if you are looking to move your CRM, or maybe get rid of a homegrown solution and move to something else. And so this person really does need to have that technical mindset. It has to understand APIs, because that's the world that integrations speak. They should have a strong understanding of your compliance. Just because you can hook into a tool, you don't want to reveal maybe all that information, especially if you're using language models. You want to make sure that you're scoping that data appropriately. And they should have strong problem solving skills, because the perfect integration may not exist. So how can they maybe work with the APIs that exist, and some additional tools to try to get the functionality that your customers need? So this is a great role to have in general in your organization, but very, very pivotal upon implementation to get those resolution rates and get those automation rates. Not everything can be learned from a language model.
Well, I think that's a really big point, because if you don't have access to the systems through integration, how is the bot going? Let's say your top resolution, or top wrap code, whatever you call it, is where's my order? I mean, hopefully we're not still dealing with that, but if if it is and you don't have integration, then that goes back to the vision. What is the vision? If it's to resolve, automate, then you need this, and it's critical. I mean, I would almost say that's where you start. What are we trying to automate, and where does that information reside? What systems does it sit in, so that the bot, just like humans need to access it, the bot will too.
Yeah, I think an important thing to know, and again, we're going to bring up the G word, goals. I think it's important to understand that maybe there's reasons why you don't want to integrate into a system. And that's fine. I think as long as your goals reflect that. So if you want a resolution rate of 90%, but half of your volume, let's say, for example, it is, where's my order? If you're not going to integrate into that system, you will never hit that. And so it can be 90% of that 50%, which is fine, again, if that's the goal of the organization. I think having those realistic expectations and looking at those platforms, and if you can hook into them, that's great. If they can provide answers and resources to customers, that's awesome. But if they can't, or for certain reasons you're not allowed to or not able to, then that's fine too, just as long as your goals reflect that. All right, next up, we have your knowledge base and your content manager. So in the world of generative AI, this role is key for everything. These bots, like a language model, is impressive with its communication skill, but it only knows what it knows. And you want to avoid just having a language model exist on its own, because you're going to get hallucinations. And if you've used ChatGPT and asked it questions and it's given you answers that sound amazing, but just aren't true, it can be very convincing, but you don't want that in your organization. So you really need to have someone who understands the questions, what people are asking, and what those solutions are, and to manage that content. And so this you may have in your organization now. Maybe it's the person putting together your product manuals, your knowledge base on your website, your learning management tool, person who trains your agents now. But you really need someone who's a really good communicator, someone who can sort of pivot in how they structure content. So there is sort of best practices way of creating that content for a language model to learn from. Strong writing skills, of course, that's a given. And ability to communicate with your customers clearly and able to communicate complex information and breaking that up into sort of bite-sized chunks where it can be used and reused. This is a key role during implementation, because that's going to make sure you have a successful launch where you are able to help people out of the gate, but then ongoing, because you're going to identify areas that maybe you're not hitting your resolution rate, and you're getting those interactions handed over to your agent. So is there institutional knowledge that they have? Maybe that's just never been documented. So they had to work with that team to get that information documented down and into the bot, and making sure that that information stays accurate. Has your policy changed? Have you rolled out new products? It's a depending on the organization, this can be a job that will not only grow in just the amount of work, but grow in the number of people that do it. So this is probably one of the most pivotal roles that you have when you're using generative AI, because it has to have something to generate from.
I mean, I think this is, I mean, next to the vision, okay, they all seem important. Somebody keep the project on track. But I think one of the benefits of this role, everything you said, Jeff, but also the idea that it dusts up what's not working in an organization. Because if you can't get your hand, if it can't be resolved and it's a product issue, packaging issue, formula issue, whatever it is, I mean, it seems obvious, but as the customer service organization within a company, they're often in a position where a lot of the volume is coming from challenges the business is facing. So I think the beauty of this, if you want to look at it the other way around, is that this ends up, you're forced to have this because it won't work if you don't. And in that process, you soon and very quickly discover what isn't working on a scale of ultimate precision, because you're now looking at, did that user manual, what is wrong with the user manual? Well, maybe the user manual is perfect, but it doesn't work because there's some issue with an outdated product. I mean, there's so many benefits. It's necessary to have, but the benefit one of the huge benefits of doing this, in my opinion, is that you literally get precise data of what's happening with the brand, products, or services that you're selling.
Yeah, absolutely. And really the goal of this person is not only to create or put in the information, but to massage it and to augment that. Like, you may have a manuals that are, or product information that's perfect, but people are reaching out to you because something's not working. So they've obviously tried the first 10 steps that you've documented, like, hey, if this is not working, try these 10. But what do you do next? What's your plan B? And then a lot of times we find, like, if you've got an agent that's been doing the same product support for like 10 years, they just know this stuff. And then maybe never got sort of put down on paper, or maybe there's reasons why it can't do that. So what can you do to sort of bubble up those solutions and maybe present them first, and assume that, well, maybe our customers have already tried the sort of like, did you turn it off, turn it on trick? What's next? What else can we try? And so I think that this person really should understand not only just how to communicate and how to provide instruction and troubleshooting, but understand the products and understand, like, what's the magic that your agents have, and how can they replicate that if possible. Awesome. So you've got your information in there, you've got your integrations, everything's working great. But is it doing a good job? So this is where you really need someone to do your performance in QA. No different than you would have with your agents. Just think of this as sort of a super powered agent. Is that information you're providing accurate? Is it relevant? Have you structured your content in a way to make sure that you're delivering precise and quality information to your customers? And are they receptive to that? Are they happy with those interactions? Like, of course, if they're not resolving their issue and they're getting escalated to an agent, that's still fine and that's expected, as long as that information is sort of handed off nicely. You're not trapping a person in a bot, which is one of the things that we don't want to ever do here. You want to give people an out, but you do want to make sure that they are sort of being handled with care. And this is no different than what you're likely doing with your agents now. You need someone to handle that performance in the QA of the bot. And so this is, again, they're going to work closely with the knowledge management team or individual and make sure that that content, is it bubbling up correctly? Does it have the voice of the brand? Is it being maybe a little too formal? Maybe it's not being formal enough. Is there enough empathy there? Because especially with language models and that the generative component of that's highly customizable. So there's a lot of things that you can do with that. And so this is a person that is really analytical, understands what quality is. And Kelly and I were talking a little bit before our conversation here about what is good quality and is everyone aligned on that. And so making sure that this individual understands what a good interaction looks like and where things can improve. And sometimes it's knowledge, sometimes it's prompt, sometimes it's just the flow. We talked about a conversation flow. Maybe it's just clunky and awkward and confusing. So really going through all of that and using a lot of data to make their decisions. So if something's happening on 0.5% of all of your interactions, that may just be the fluke of dealing with the public. But if you're finding 50% of your interactions are scoring badly and just don't feel right, where can you make the most effective improvements with that? So they should understand that. They should have experience in quality, like I said. Really proactive, looking at those interactions, spot checking them, using some of the insights tools that are out there, and figuring out what's going on. I think is really key. Like, are you resting on your laurels, or are you trying to improve day by day?
Well, the only thing, Jeff, that I think of is think about CSAT. So normal Q&A and CSAT questions, how satisfied were you with the experience you had today? Goes back to the vision, right? Do you want to know that what they think of their experience? I mean, probably yes. Or do you want to know, did this resolve your issue today? Like, you really want to tailor, I think, even your quality program in a slightly different way so that you're getting back what you need from your customers. So, I don't know, what if you wanted it to be super wicked fast? Like, were we wicked fast today? I mean, that's probably ridiculous, but my point is it should all line up so that you're getting the most out of Q&A. And I don't think we said that, all of the transcripts can be fed into an AI quality tool, and it can be treated just like agents in terms of, and then measure them side by side, which I am still blown away how well chatbots can do, the generative chatbots, not the old, did this article solve your question?
Right.
Not that one. But yeah, I would just say this also needs a strategy. I think that's kind of the key word. Like, what's the vision? What's the strategy overlay throughout?
Well, I think an alignment is too as well, because you maybe have a lot of interactions. Like, you've got maybe a policy that people just don't like, but that's your policy. If the bot is telling a person like, sorry, I can't help you because this is our policy, you're likely going to get bad CSAT, but that is resolved. So how do you handle those gray areas and making sure that everybody's aligned as to what that is? So we've talked about this before, the difference between automation and resolution, and they are gray areas in many cases. So I think making sure that everyone understands and again, align with goals. And I think this is key for the performance and QA person, because they're taking this journey all the way throughout. That person is going to be with the platform and the tool to the end of days. So they really are steering the ship, or making sure the ship is going in the right direction. All right. Next up, so what happens when the bot doesn't resolve it? Well, you've got to escalate that, right? And so there's going to be certain instances where maybe you've got certain compliance reasons where your bot cannot handle certain types of requests, or maybe the person has tried all the steps, they've got a unique situation, or it's just really complex and they need to escalate that. So you need someone to manage your escalations team. And so This is sort of different than like we have success managers here that manage our people. This escalation team is going to both manage the people, but understand what's going on with the bot. And so this is a really pivotal role because they're really going to lead to success of this. Is there things that are getting escalated that maybe don't need to be? So they're going to be on the front lines knowing what interactions are sort of slipping through the cracks, or maybe there's, again, institutional knowledge that people have. What is happening out there? And maybe they're going to communicate what's happening with products. Is there an outage? Is there something going on? And working with the sort of technical side, the flow designers, to making sure that they are aware of those type of things and they can pivot how conversations are handled. So they're really a key role in making sure that you are, of course, successful with your customers, because of course they're managing the people, but they are also working, making sure that that handoff is happening well, that they're on board for this, again, the same goals. Are we hitting that escalation, that resolution rate? If not, well, what can be done? They are seeing those interactions that are coming through. Is there something? Is there a tool that we have not integrated with? That's a vital thing. And so someone who has a strong relationship management with the technology and the platform, but also with the agents, strong communication skills. They should be very aware. They should know what the platform is trying to do or doing before it hands off to that team, and really collaborate and work strategically with everyone to making sure that everything, again, is successful and that those goals are met. Even though this is sort of the human part, it is really quite critical because you're not going to automate. It's very unlikely you're going to automate 100% of your interactions. All right, so that's the 7 roles that are sort of key. But Sally, you wanted to talk a little bit about how does that scale?
Yeah. Well, first, there is a question, and I think it's the perfect time to ask it. And it was, which AI support role should we hire first if we're just getting started?
Oh, that is a good one. So really, I think there's not going to be just one. I think you're going to have someone who has the sort of technical skill set and the service mindset to handle that conversational flow and your knowledge management, because you're not going to be able to answer any of those questions out of there. So I think first you need to understand, and I think you should map this out internally, is what are your interactions that are coming in now? If 80% of your interactions are coming in with known knowledge, and so this is knowledge that's documented somewhere in a manual, on your website, in your team members' manuals, then that content management person is going to be pivotal because they're going to be doing all of that. If 80 or 90% of your interactions are where's my order, then maybe content and like a generative language model aren't as key. Then your integration person is going to be vital. So it really comes down to mapping that out and understanding where your volume drivers are, and then what sort of mapping of those roles will most serve you in getting that ROI and getting that goal met.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. We have a question from Mark. You're just going to, we talk about this all the time. What are your thoughts on training the AI bot on past interactions and tickets?
So that's a very good question. And I know this was, a lot of times we saw this with vendors that were sort of developing their own, I guess, language models or automation tools early on, because the idea was, oh, we want to replicate your agents. We found there's been a movement away from that. And the idea is either using what's called a RAG model or actually doing a custom trained AI model on your content. And so the benefit of that is you have to document your content anyway. You have to train agents. You have to put stuff up on your FAQ. That is sort of the more successful approach to go. It is a little bit more work because you have to do all of that in order to be successful. But if you go on your past interactions, the challenge with that is you may not have agents that have been sort of top tier. You'd have to filter through all of that and maybe say, okay, well, maybe these agents weren't meeting quality. We wouldn't feed those interactions in there. And maybe the business has changed. What happens if you see people quoting policies that don't exist anymore? It's a hard. I see the mindset that people had originally, because it was like, here's 100,000 interactions. Let's just replicate what's going on there. But we've found that using the sort of RAG model, or the sort of a custom trained learning language model, is really much more effective when it comes to having a consistent voice and accurate information being delivered, and easy to tweak, because you're referencing that material. You can remove steps, you can remove policies, and then just push that out, and it just becomes much more successful and much easier to manage. You're not dependent on the platform. So that's a good question, and I think there's probably still people that are doing that, and I think maybe it depends on the organization. But we've really found that focusing on having that rock solid content out of the gate is much more effective and can be used in other departments.
Well, I will say we did, I think it was like a month ago, do a deep dive because we had a client that was really, this from the non-technical person's perspective. We had a client that was very interested in increasing the resolution rate, and we just didn't have the documentation. So we went back, and there was one of the challenges with the data was there was not an accurate capture of what steps resolved, shockingly. So we ran into, I will use the word swirled on that for a while, because we thought there would be a gold mine of data. And instead, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, the tenured top tier humans were better able to provide the answers to resolve, again, if that's the goal, right? Then, 3 years of data.
Yeah. And I think this goes good to a good point to what Mark's asking here, is how are you providing support right now? Like, if you are sending like 10 different possible solutions or 3 different articles through an email after the fact, of they say, okay, try one of these to see if they work, that is not necessarily going to give you that resolution, or it's going to be unknown, because people also don't necessarily reply and say, that's great, article number 2 solved my issue. It's really those conversations that happen live, and encouraging, try to get the resolution sort of in the interaction so that you can analyze it after the fact. And so it becomes complicated, and sometimes you are going to have really sort of complex troubleshooting or policy conversations. And for those, you're just going to want to have agents right now anyway. And I think that that's why you have that escalation team.
Okay, so should we go back to, we'll jump back to, yes. I mean, this is a quick comment, right? Like, when it's small, you're going to have people that wear many hats. Your implementation manager, maybe your vendor manager, may also be your content person. So, Jeff, you probably have thoughts on this too.
Yeah, I think again, I think always looking at your flows, what's driving your content, and then where do those hats fit? Like your flow, conversation flow person may be the same as because they're going to have a technical mindset. Maybe they can also do the integrations, and maybe the tool that they're using has some plug and play options. Your content manager and QA people might be the same, or maybe it's your content manager and your escalations team person are the same, because they're so close with the products and the solutions. So we're not saying you have to come out of the gate and hire 7 people or do that exponentially. Or the other potential is your vendor, your platform may have these roles as part of their solution, or maybe are able to find you those roles when it becomes something that maybe you're like, well, where do I even start to source someone that can do that? So I think looking at your organization and saying, okay, what are you doing now? Who's handling your learning management? Who's handling your website? And say, okay, is this another hat that they can put on? And I think your size, your volume is going to determine that work. If you have a very large program, a large amount of content, and just a tremendous number of interactions, you might have 2 or 3 content managers, or maybe your QA department is now handling this, right? Versus one individual. So it comes down to the volume, but these are really like they could be actual roles, or they could be sort of subset roles of an individual right now, because there is overlap, and it doesn't make sense if you have like a small enough size where AI makes sense, but not necessarily where you would have an entire division in your organization that can handle that.
So I think, Jeff, we have a question here from John. I just want to throw it out there,
Sure.
and you could answer this quickly. But how do you identify when someone is mollified and you should escalate to an empowered human? Can AI do that? Meaning, I believe, uh, like when it comes back to design, right? What are the sensitivity uh, components of the design for the bot? Should it escalate on a specific topic? Should it escalate based on a tone from the customer, so you're detecting that they're unhappy or angry? Could you just elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, this is actually one of the, I'll say, superpowers of these language models, is they really can apply a lot of context to what's going on. And this is, I think you touched on it earlier about prompts. We were talking about that could be a whole topic in itself, but you can really give instruction depending on, again, what your goals are. If you, like, for example, if you want someone to give them the opportunity to escalate, you may want to first determine like what it is they're asking. If they're saying agent, 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 your policy might be like, nope, I want an agent right away. Let's not put that person in there. But you can instruct the bot to say, no, okay, but we do need to know what it's about. Make sure you have a general understanding, and then escalate that. But then you can have a caveat there and say, okay, if you've tried like 3 times and you detect that that person's becoming frustrated, um, then just automatically flag that as an escalation. Or that can just be in general with, like, let's say you're doing some troubleshooting, and you want to say, okay, if ever people are like constantly saying, yeah, I've tried that. These language models are really good at picking up that tone, and then you're not having to do the sort of complex of like they're using like these 3 words and together, and some of the old technology that we had to do back in the day. It's pretty accurate at determining that frustration, and then you can release that person out there. You can do it in an empathetic way. You can say, okay, that's great, let me get someone for you. First, I do need to know your email address or something like that maybe they just don't want to give up, but you do need that for your CRM or whatnot. So you can actually have it try to like not only sort of lower the level of frustration, but just give confidence, like, no, we're going to get someone for you, don't you worry. And its ability to pivot and pick up on that tone is quite remarkable. And I think we're just going to see more and more of that. And again, that's what you get with this sort of generative conversational piece of it. It's not some tech person drawing boxes and typing in messages of what to say, if this, then that. This is really something that's quite powerful. All right. So I think we're talking here about escalation and human backup. So we talked about this a little bit as far as the role and that person that's being an advocate there. But really, you have to define your pathways to make sure you have quick and effective resolution. And so once you've sort of mapped that out and understanding how you're going to escalate, then you want to make sure that that's smooth. And this is sort of what I was just talking about with John's question there is you have a tremendous ability to make this as natural as possible. And so if you can take advantage of the generative tools out there and have them sort of do that pre-collection of data, and then encourage like or give the person confidence that they are going to get over to someone, we just need to do that. I think that's really important, and super not easy to do per se, but a lot easier than it used to be. Ongoing training and optimization. Again, this goes back to goals. If you are looking for a resolution rate, which basically means you're looking to escalate less, where can you do that? Where can you optimize? And this is a challenging one, because in the beginning, there's so many options. And as you sort of optimize and get better and better, you're starting to now just pick like little bits of interactions there. Like, here's a 1% improvement, here's a 0.5% improvement. And that's something that you have to sort of decide, okay, is the amount of work to get that level of resolution worthwhile? And so it's a constant like learning and training and optimization process that you have to do to make sure that you're using your agents effectively. And then recognizing that your complex issue resolution is where humans are really good at. And the AI can be really good at that, but it does lack it. And it's hard to do that without sort of trapping people into that conversation. And so really making sure that you have your people, like you're going to really be shifting from sort of maybe a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 model to just a tier 2 and 3 model. Like your generative tools are going to be taking care of all of the basic stuff. And hopefully you're just now handling those high touch, high complex, maybe high empathy interactions with your agents, which is what you have that team for.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I think we want to maybe jump to the last slide and wrap up by saying and sharing, well, where do we start? We have shared most of this. I will just say this is the design, like the CEO of your company, your brand promise to your customers, your marketing and product team, all really need to be involved in defining what is the goal, what are our KPIs, what are we trying to do. With so many things that you shared, Jeff, I'm sure all of us, but we're thinking it is really a personal brand decision. I don't even know that that's a proper sentence, but what do you want your customer experience to be, and who owns that? Because it is so powerful, and you could have a lot of automation, you could have a lot of resolution, you could have it be very light touch or not at all, of course. So there's all of these, and even the way it interacts with customers. I mean, are we going to be talking about customer effort scores? I mean, I think it all comes down to what are you trying to do? I mean, honestly, what we hear from most people that are in the weeds is we want to automate so we save money. I think that is a common goal. If it's balanced with the brand promise and the brand identity and your customer experience, that's important. You may go too far. But I think also the good news is you could adjust. This is early. I think customers they're probably happy to get answers. We're in the dark days where you're on a phone, remember, with the airlines for like years. Like, that's not a good experience. So I think the customers are changing, brand promises are changing. It's all moving like in a fast pace. So, defining it, all of the things here we've already touched on, mapping the journey, the knowledge you need, integration. When are you going to hand off to people? At some point, you have to hand off to a human, I think. And then just iterating, reiterating, and all of this seems like common sense. But I think it's where we have seen some struggles because it is so new and is so powerful that alignment, I think that was a beautiful word, alignment throughout your organization. Because our executive team, we still listen to calls and we debate what we each think is a great experience still. And we've worked together forever. We've been in this business forever. So, I mean, customers are the same way. So, Jeff, always fun to be with you. I'm grateful to everybody joining us. This is so fun. I could just do this full time. Reach out to us if you have any questions about what you're thinking about doing, or if you have experience to share with us. I don't want to say even better, but we'd love to be connected because this is also new. We would love to know your experience. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to Jeff, myself. We have Kyle listed here. We're all at your service.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Because that's changing fast. And like, there's going to be a headline tomorrow that's going to open up a role we haven't even talked about here yet. Yeah. It's pretty remarkable.
Well, thank you, everyone. And thanks again, Jeff, for being my co-host here today. So
always a pleasure.
Hope you all have a great weekend. Happy Pi Day and happy St. Patrick's Day on Monday.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.